What is the most degrading thing you have ever done for money? I agreed to get tased for £150. In my defense, I was most of the way to drunk. Against my defense, I pissed myself. When I worked at a grocery store, I used to eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on break. Since it was cheap, I'd buy all the ingredients and just sit in the break room and scarf down 3 to 4 sandwiches before returning to work. One day, one of my co-workers saw me scarfing them down and asked if I could eat the whole loaf of sandwiches. I told him I think I could, but asked what he wanted to bet me. He said if I could do it, that he'd buy me a whole loaf of bread, jar of peanut butter, and jar of jelly. Naturally, I agreed. I managed to eat the whole thing in a little under 30 minutes, but admittedly I was being pretty sparse with my usage of PB&J by the end. When I finished, I felt like walking at my normal speed would make my body explode, so I walked at half speed and took it easy. Admittedly, I did it as a broke college kid because I'd save about $4 by having him buy me a new jar of PB and a new jar of J. This experience didn't stop me from continuing to eat PB&J on future breaks. Also, later that night I took the biggest sh in the world. When I was 16, I showed someone I met on RuneScape my tits for 20 million gold coins. I know it's not real money, but it was pretty degrading. Got 99 magic with it though, so no regrets. My brother dared me to chug the whole bottle of maple syrup at our breakfast table for $50. I thought I was going to die. It was so thick and disgusting, it just wouldn't go down. I literally tasted syrup for a week straight after that. Rubbed grapefruit in my eye for $1. Hurt like hell. Wore contacts at the time. When I put my contact back in, it burned all over again. 2 for the price of 1. I was homeless for a bit after high school, living out of my car. I had some of my things with me. One of these items was over the course of my childhood. My grandfather had collected those quarters of all 50 states for all of us grandkids. I opened that up and used the quarters for gas money to get a job. I have been trying my best to recollect them. Worked in a members only restaurant as a sushi girl where we served food naked and either acted as the table, ordered things with the meal in exchange for tips. So let me tell you about the other products Cutco offers. Never again. I was desperate for a job when I was 15, and after seeing an ad from Vector, a company I'd never heard of, I applied. Immediately after I applied, like within 20 seconds I got a call, and it was a response from someone who was ready to offer me the job pretty much on the spot without any sort of interview or anything. As sketchy as that was, I continued on. Then they got to the point that I had to buy product to sell, and I wasn't comfortable investing money if I knew nothing about this. Instead of politely declining and hanging up, I started talking, and halfway through the sentence I hung up and pretended like my call dropped. They called me back immediately, so I answered, and I kept pretending like my voice was cutting out before I hung up again. They called back again, and I didn't answer. They called back a second time and I didn't answer again. That number ended up calling me like 3 times a day every day for the next 2 weeks until they finally gave up. As a 15-year-old, I was so afraid of confrontation and saying no thanks that I just let myself be haunted by their unending calls. I was like 8 and wanted money at the cottage. Aunt told me I could stir the shithole outhouse if I was that desperate. So I found the longest downed tree branch I could, took off all the twigs, etc. Then used that 8-foot bastard to stir it up. Then went to collect my money. She laughed at me, said she couldn't believe it. So I fished the branch out of the forest and left it on the hood of her car. Apparently my teenage nephew needs Fortnite money so bad he resorted to stealing my shit. Like I don't trust this sweet little man anymore. Because he's so addicted to goddamn Fortnite that he stole a pocket knife and a dig out from me. Like he got $15 maximum. He risked our very close relationship for what, 2 skins? I was 13 and my brother had to do community service for some stupid illegal thing he did. My brother didn't want to do it and decided he was not going to go. My father asked me if I would do it in his stead. No one bothered to check it, just expected a kid to show up so my brother wouldn't get into more trouble. I negotiated for a new video game if I would do it. The community service was about 80 hours at a local park. All of the guys there treated me like shit and talked down to me. because I was some asshole kid that fucked up. I took it and just bided my time till the end. At the end of my last day, after I got the signed off form, I told them how shitty and stupid they were for not realizing that someone else did the community service. One guy threatened to tell someone about it. I countered that it would look really bad on them for not asking for something as basic as identification and left. Nothing ever came of it. I needed money pretty badly when I was 17. I moved out of my parents' house and couldn't afford to eat or pay rent, and I got laid off my job. I went around house to house asking if they needed their lawn raked. After a couple confused looks, why is a 17-year-old doing this? I prepared a fake clipboard and donation slips for multiple sclerosis, saying I would rake their lawn if they made a $10 to $40 donation. I couldn't believe how many of these I was able to do. BTW, raking lawns is hard work. I never donated the money, I used it to live. But since I lost my mom and sister to manuscript, which kinda put me in that situation, I don't feel bad about it. Was an absolutely broke ass student. We are talking literally zero in the bank when my friends were going to a house party that weekend. Well, have fun guys. I don't even have bus fare to get there. Never mind cash for a pizza and some beer. One of my mates says they will loan me £25 and just pay them back when I got paid from work. Turns out the place we were going to was 2 bus rides to get there, with no late night student bus getting back to town. So I was going to have to use the remaining £20 to split a taxi fare with one of the guys back home, which would have been about £30 in total. This left me approximate £5 for food and beer at this party that we had just rocked up to. Fuck it, I'll just get the cheapest bottle of cider and 4 cans of Pisswater lager and just get hammered on that. Get back to the party and put the 2L bottle of something resembling apple cider and the cans on the kitchen worktop, looking for a pint glass to start making some snake bites, when I hear a massive crash behind me. A drunk girl had knocked the cans of lager onto the hard stone floor, bursting 2 of them in a shower of lukewarm booze. My friends decided to host a fundraiser for me, where for every dare I completed they would chuck in a £1 coin. Over the course of the night I swapped my t-shirt with one of the girls, who was wearing a small petted pink tank top. I'm a 6 foot tall guy who weighs 18 stone, 250 pounds. Pulled out some of my chest hair and ate it in a bread bun. Put some lip gloss on and had to refer to the other guys as sailor for an hour. Waxed my shins. Made a fake account on Adult Fantasy RPG forum and had to read out the few responses I got in the guise of Gandalf, complete with mop, clean and dry, beard, wearing a green dressing gown at the top of the stairs. All in all, it was fun night, but damn, I was whoring myself out £1 at a time. My best friend came home from the bars one night, drunk and hungry. His roommate, not me, was the only one with food. My friend asked for the frozen pizza and was told he can have it if he snorts the roommate's pee. So my friend proceeded to snort a shot glass of his pee. After puking, he got the pizza, put it in the oven, passed out and awoke to a charred, black, uneaten pizza. This may not count, as the payment was pizza and not money, but I'll never get a better chance to tell that story on here. I worked as a cook in a strip club. The kind where the kitchen was at the end of the bar and you'd have to take the customers' orders yourself. One night this drunk, arrogant piece of shit comes up and starts bragging about how much money he had. Then he asked for deep fried chicken we had, which was about $10. Guy pulls out a $20 and flicks it my way. Tells me he could afford to pay even more. Pulls out another $20 and does the same. Then another, still bragging about his massive wealth. So I proceeded to cook him up the best chicken tenders money could buy. Kept the extra cash, but felt real dirty about it for the rest of the night. Worked at a personal protection service when I was younger. Many of the clients were fantastic people. Comedians are usually great, actors and actresses are meh, politicians are usually assholes. Their families are almost always awful. One gig, we were going to pick up an actress's 12-14-year-old daughter and take her shopping while mom was on set. We had a list of places we were supposed to take her, a list of places that were okay if she wanted, and a list of places not to let her go. With kids, the company had a 2-body policy, 1 male and 1 female. I did the meet and greet while my partner for the walk kept in the passenger seat of the car. Talked to mom for a minute, got the lists and credit card and headed for the car. As I'm opening the rear door of the car for Miss Shitface, she informs me we'll be going to most of the stores on the no list, and that if I argue she'll tell her mom that I touched her. Partner gets out of the car at that point and stares at the girl, then points to the dash cam. Kid doesn't even have the decency to be ashamed. She just shrugs and gets in. No further trouble from that one, but many family members were that kind of demanding. A friend got me a job for a day collecting bottles in a bar right in the center of Pride weekend in Birmingham, UK, when I was a student back in 2005. The degrading bit was that I got continually groped all day, high spirits and drugs mostly, and, because I needed the money, I didn't leave. I worked 14 hours straight for £70 before going to my job in a bar in the center of town. The sad part is that my car got towed whilst I was in there by one of these scam tiny sign on a disused patch of grass towing companies, and it cost £160 to get it back. I was also late to my bar job. Ended up working the night before, that day and that night, 35 hours of a 40-hour period, and didn't even break even.